I'm Susan Euler. The year 1900 was greeted with a great deal of enthusiasm. It was not only the beginning of a new century, it was the beginning of an entirely new way of life. With cars, telephones, phonographs, electric lights, flying machines, and yes, cameras. Cameras that were affordable, easy to use, and turned everyone into an artist, at least in theory. It was the era of photography. That may have influenced us and contributed to our reaction against anything that resembled a photographic plate taken from life. We treated colors like sticks of dynamite, exploding them to produce light. We attacked color directly. André Derain, Fauve artist. The style known as Fauvism was first introduced to the public in 1905 at the Salon d'Automne. The Salon d'Automne had been created a few years earlier by the renowned architect Franz Jordan as a way of promoting new art and avant-garde artists. Jordan himself is best remembered as the architect who remodeled the famous Paris department store La Samaritaine in the new daring Art Nouveau style. It immediately became one of Paris's most famous landmarks. La Samaritaine was closed in 2005 and was slated to be demolished when it could not be brought up to modern building codes. However, its original rooftop garden lives on in a scene from the movie The Bourne Identity. But further good news. After years of controversy, deal-making, and several false starts, La Samaritaine has been completely remodeled, updated, and restored, with its original cast-iron signs, ceramic decorations, and Art Nouveau murals looking just as they did when Jordan created them. The new La Samaritaine opened in 2021 in a gala ceremony hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron. In any event, although Jordan himself worked in the Art Nouveau style, all styles of modern art were welcome at the Salon d'Automne, and established as well as emerging artists were invited to exhibit, including those associated with the Fauves. The major Fauve artists were Henri Matisse, Maurice Flamanck, André Derain, and Georges Rouault, along with Dufy, Marquet, Van Dongen, Metzinger, Frieze, Valtat, and Georges Braque. Georges Braque will join Picasso in 1908 to establish the Cubist movement. The word Fauve means wild beast. Although they worked together and shared common goals, the Fauve artists themselves did not come up with this name for their movement. Rather, it derives from a remark made by art critic Louis Vaucels, who, upon seeing a Renaissance-style sculpture at the first Fauve exhibit, exclaimed, "Donatello au milieu des fauves," Donatello among the wild beasts. His comment was reported in the popular newspaper Gil Blas, and the name stuck. 2 years later, Vaucels wrote, also in Gil Blas, "A movement I consider dangerous is taking shape among a small clan of youngsters." The leaders of this clan were Henri Matisse and André Derain, hardly youngsters. Matisse was 38 and Derain was 27. Louis Vaucels himself was only 37. But, of course, he might have considered himself older because of his more sophisticated taste in art, at least in his own estimation. However, Fauvism didn't suddenly drop out of the sky from nowhere. Au contraire. The vivid individualized colors and expressive brushstrokes already had a long history, going back at least 30 years to 1874 when Impressionism was first introduced. But Vaucels, like many people today, just could not understand and appreciate art that was not realistic. But getting back to Matisse, Henri Matisse was no wild beast. In fact, he was widely admired as a dedicated family man, someone who younger artists pointed to as a way of demonstrating to their parents that being an artist was a perfectly respectable career. Matisse had originally intended to become a lawyer. However, when recovering at home following an appendix operation, his mother bought him a set of paints to help him pass the time. The story goes that Matisse found painting so wonderful that he dropped out of law school and enrolled at the Académie Julian, then at l'École des Beaux-Arts, the prestigious school of fine arts, where many of France's most famous artists had studied. His first paintings reflect this conservative art school education, realistically painted in dark colors with strong contrast of light and shade. But he soon lightened his palette and introduced Impressionist color. By 1900, Matisse had begun working in the bold colors and abstract painting style that will come to characterize Fauvism. Matisse was not the first painter to use bold, highly saturated colors. Interest in color theory had been intense among artists since the 1870s, when the Impressionists discovered the writings of scientist Michel Chevreul. What impressed them most about Chevreul's theories was the concept that the eye mixes color. For example, a river isn't a solid blue, but a mixture of many different colors and reflections that from a distance the eye sees as blue, or green, or gray, or whatever, depending on what is being reflected and the lighting conditions. To make their paintings more realistic, that is, more representative of what the eye actually sees, the Impressionists applied paint in small dashes, or taches, of different colors, and let the eye of the viewer mix them together, just like what is done in nature. By the late 1880s, the Impressionists, particularly Edgar Degas and Claude Monet, began painting using colors that went beyond anything seen in nature, using what art historians call individualized colors that evoke rather than describe a scene. This expressive use of color will inspire the next generation of artists, the so-called post-impressionists such as Van Gogh and Gauguin, who will replace naturalistic color, that is, the colors of nature, with abstract and sometimes symbolic color that expresses the artist's feelings about the subject, rather than simply describing what it looks like. Other post-impressionists took the impressionist taches and transformed them into small dots, or points, that they scientifically arranged in patterns to create an image, more or less. Called Pointillism, Divisionism, or Neo-Impressionism, this technique was invented in the 1880s by Georges Seurat. Like the Impressionists before him, Seurat used different colors placed side by side to allow the viewer's eye to mix them together optically to create a new shade. It doesn't really work, and later Pointillists abandoned any pretense that this technique was scientific. In 1904, Matisse joined Pointillists Paul Signac and Edmond Cross at Saint-Tropez. Both Cross and Signac used intensive, expressive colors in their works that did not necessarily reflect the colors of nature. This combination of abstract color and loosely painted points or dots quickly changed Matisse's style. He lightened his palette and began painting with looser, more abstract brushstrokes and fewer details. In the summer of 1905, Matisse and his friend and fellow artist André Derain went on a painting holiday to the little fishing village of Collioure in southern France on the border with Spain. This is where the Fauves style really comes together. Derain's work, even more than that of Matisse, defines Fauvism, with its strong lines and bold colors applied directly from the two. Looking at the landscapes he painted at Collioure and those he did the following year in London, we can understand what Derain meant when he said that they used paint like sticks of dynamite. Painted in bright blues and vivid shades of red, orange, pink, and green, these innovative works all epitomize the bold new 20th century attitude towards life as well as art. The contrast between the vivid paintings of the Fauves and the black and white palette of early 20th century photographs is obvious. The Fauves, like the post-impressionists before them, wanted to give viewers something that photography could not: color. As Derain explained, we attacked color directly. However, the Fauves were not interested in using color symbolically, unlike the symbolist artists such as Gauguin. Rather, they were interested in the formal properties of color, how different colors work together to achieve an effect, a decorative effect. As Matisse wrote, "Expression, to my way of thinking, does not consist of the passion mirrored on the human face, or betrayed by a violent gesture. The whole arrangement of my picture is expressive. Composition is the art of arranging in a decorative manner the various elements at the painter's disposal for the expression of his feelings. A work achieves the harmony of the whole." And the public loved Fauvism right from the start. Although it only lasted as a unified art movement for about 5 years, it has remained one of the most popular and influential styles of the modern period. In fact, Fauvism was so immediately popular that in 1907, the art dealer Daniel Kahnweiler bought every painting in Durand's studio, thus giving Durand the financial stability that allowed him to continue as an artist for the rest of his life. As for Matisse, he quickly became a favorite of wealthy American collectors Leo and Gertrude Stein, as well as with Claribel and Etta Cohn. Referred to as the Cohn sisters, they were the sisters of Moses and Caesar Cohn, who became fabulously wealthy in the North Carolina textile industry and shared their financial success with their family. The Cohn sisters, one a physician and the other a classical pianist, filled their large Baltimore apartments with paintings by Matisse, helping to launch his career as one of the leading artists of the 20th century. They also owned numerous works by Picasso, Cézanne, Dufy, and Gauguin. Today, the bulk of the Cohn sisters' impressive collection, which is valued at over $1 billion and contains 500 of Matisse's works, paintings, as well as sculptures and prints, is in the Baltimore Museum of Art, where you can see it free of charge. It's well worth a visit. For the 10-Minute Professor, this is Dr. Susan Ray Euler. Thanks for tuning in.